tech
Go back.
guru a second to load things up so we see who is online. I know we do have a couple people who are attending remotely today. So let's give that just a few seconds. In the meantime, I will read the Dakota Land, Water, and People Acknowledgement. So the Metropolitan Council acknowledges that the land we currently call Minnesota, and specifically the 7-county region, is the ancestral homeland of the Dakota Ayote, who are present and active contributors to our thriving region. As part of the Metropolitan Council's commitment to address the unresolved legacy of genocide, dispossession, and settler colonialism, and the fact that government institutions, including the Metropolitan Council, benefited economically, politically, and institutionally after the forcible removal of the Dakota Ayote. The Metropolitan Council is dedicated to instilling land, water, and people commitments in regional policy. These commitments support the Dakota Ayote, the 11 federally recognized tribes in Minnesota, Ho-Chunk Nation, and the American Indian communities representing over 150 diverse tribal nations that call the 7-county region home. All right, let's do roll call in the room and then we'll see who's online. Dying to start? Take it away.
Claudia Fugly, MNCCD.
Doug Cook, Metro Transit.
Scotty Carter, OEEO.
Stephanie Cada, Patsy's IHS worker.
Patsy Murphy, Precinct C.
Julie Sellner, Metro Mobility.
David Fenley, Chair.
Patty Thorson, Vice Chair, and Trellis.
Kevin Petrie, Recording Secretary.
Gary Sheldon, Precinct G.
Awesome. Thank you for folks in the room. Are there members online? If so, please just chime in.
Ken Rogers, Precinct D.
Sam Jasmine, Precinct A.
Michelle Severson, Minnesota Council on Disability.
One more. Is there one more person? All right. I'm expecting at least one more person to join online, so we will hold off on approval of agenda and approval of minutes because we need one more person for quorum, and I think that person will probably show up online shortly. I also would like to wait to do the legislative update. Hopefully, that individual will show up online too, so we can do the legislative update with them here. Is Blue Line in the room by chance? Are you guys ready to just kick it off? Sure. First things first. I guess the second thing. Welcome.
Thank you.
Great to have you back.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Just dive right in. I think it's been, what, at least three or four times now?
Right. Chair, committee members, my name is Nkongo Cigolo. I am the manager of public involvement on the Blue Line Extension project, and I'm here with my colleague, and I'll let her introduce herself.
Hi, I'm Beth Gunderson. I am the Station and Facilities Design Lead for the Blue Line Extension.
All right. As Jerry mentioned, this is not the first time that we've come in front of you. We came in front of you in January of 2024 when the project was getting ready to begin the supplemental environmental assessment on a modified route. As you know, this project has been in the works for quite some time. Initially, this project was designed to go along Highway 55 into Golden Valley and then travel along the freight corridor through Golden Valley, Robbinsdale, Crystal, and then Brooklyn Park. However, the project was unable to secure a needed agreement with BNSF, the company that runs that corridor, so we had to go back to the drawing board and visit a modified route, which we kicked off the work on it in 2020, August of 2020. after the project had been shelved, if I could say so, for a couple of years. So we were able to bring the project back and spent about 3 years of engaging the communities along Minneapolis, northern Minneapolis, and North Loop, Robbinsdale, and Crystal to come up with a route that would go further into environmental assessment. So in November of 2023, that was just right before we came to the board, to the committee here, we were able to get permission from the Corridor Management Committee, which is the policy-making body for this project, allowing us to do additional work, including the environmental review on the current route. On the next slide. All right. So the route as we know it today is a 13.4 mile of track that will travel mainly along the North Minneapolis portion of the city there and then into Robbinsdale. The purpose of the modification was to allow this route to connect with various neighborhoods in North Minneapolis and continuing into Robbinsdale. The line will travel for the most part in the center of the roadway. As we conducted work with various communities to pick out a route, we heard tons of feedback about the route where we were intending on building it and the impacts that this route would have on various communities. And so we came up with the route as we know it today with fewer impacts to the various communities. So the route would travel from Target Field all the way through 7th, 10th Avenue to Washington Avenue. We'll go along Washington Avenue, cross West Broadway, and then after crossing West Broadway, we'll go on a new bridge over Highway 94, and then we'll travel along 21st Avenue to rejoin West Broadway past Irving. So between Irving and James, the alignment will cut diagonally through that block to go back to West Broadway, and then travel in the center of West Broadway all the way through Robbinsdale, Crystal, Brooklyn Park, at 71st Avenue, 73rd Avenue in Brooklyn Park. The alignment will go over a bridge over County Road 81 and then to West Broadway to continue all the way to the Target campus in northern Brooklyn Park. So that's the alignment as we know it today. 13 new stations will provide a single ride from northern Brooklyn Park all the way to the Mall of America. This is essentially the extension of an existing LRT run, the Blue Line as we know it today, that runs between the Mall of America and Target Field, that will now be extended all the way to northern Brooklyn Park. Anti-displacement has been a major component of our work. As we engaged with the various communities, we heard tons of concerns about the project displacing various businesses, residents in the area, and we were able to work with Hennepin County, who managed an anti-displacement program that was added to the project that has done a lot of work in understanding the impacts and also helping those communities along the alignment. Beth will talk about the design. So we've completed 60%. We're advancing into 90%, but engagement has been a key component of our work. So we are at a point where we've completed the environmental assessment. So when we came in front of you in January of 2024, we're getting that work started. So in June of 2024, we were able to publish a supplemental draft environmental impact statement. It's part of the NEPA, the National Environmental Protection Act, that is a requirement for the federal projects, or the projects supported by the federal funding, to analyze the impacts associated with the route, and then also coming up with mitigation measures to address those impacts. So in June of 2024, we're able to publish the draft environmental impact statement, which published the impacts associated with the modified route as we know it. We went through a public process, received comments, and then we continued the work to now come up with the mitigation measures to address those impacts. So the mitigation measures were published in the supplemental final environmental assessment, which was published in the summer of 2025, and then the federal government, the FTA, published the amended record of decision, which was their process to basically concur with the findings of the environmental review process conducted by the project, and then with the mitigation measures that had been identified as part of the environmental review process by issuing the amended record of decision in August of 2025 that ended the environmental review process, which at that point really allowed the project to begin construction or to begin purchasing right-of-way for the project. So where we're at today now, 2026, environmental review has been completed. We've identified some mitigation measures, but now we're working through how those mitigation measures are going to be implemented. So we're working on an implementation plan. We'll continue to work on Section 106. Those are historic properties that are being impacted as part of this project. And we're anticipating that that work will continue all the way through 2027 and even beyond that as we get into construction. Design is advancing, and Beth will talk more about that, anticipating that through 26 here would be done with our design work. Full funding grant agreement, as you know, this project is funded or is anticipated to be funded by the federal government. So we're actively working on our application. So we're doing some work with the FDA right now related to risk assessment and all those types of coordination so that our scope could be finalized. Once the scope is finalized, then a final budget would be would derive from that, and then the project would be ready to apply for the full funding grant agreement. So we're anticipating that work will be done through 26 and 27, and you see a span of roughly 2 years there. Typically, once you apply for the full funding grant agreement, it may take anywhere between 6 months to 18 months before you get your approval. So that timeline is built into the schedule. So we're anticipating that we would start the contracting process in 2027, that we'd begin with some advanced traffic improvement work in a portion of the alignment yet in 2027. And then the heavy construction part of the project would come later as we complete all the additional work leading to the full funding grant application, and then work with our city partners to talk about maintenance of traffic. And once the contract has been awarded and the contract work finalized, then we could get a final schedule on an anticipated time of construction and length of construction. So there's still a lot of work in the pipeline here, and we'll share more information as that becomes available. Public engagement, again, we'll continue to work with the public. We've had a lot of fun working with the public and including their feedback into the process as this project gets developed. Right.
Okay. Hi. Hello, Chair and committee members. Again, Beth Gunderson. I'm to provide a design update on the Blue Line extension. Today, we're going to focus, I forgot about this slide, sorry. The project has recently approached 90% design milestone. So for these large light rail projects, we have 3 main milestones: 30%, 60%, and 90% design. At 90% design, we're really getting into the details, looking at construction planning and exactly how ADA ramps work, landscaping plans, very detailed items like that. 90% plans will be released shortly. I think we're getting through review with our city stakeholders currently. Next slide, please. So what's changed since 60%? With the updates coming with 90%, we've looked to incorporate key stakeholder comments from 60% design, added ADA compliant pedestrian ramps and intersections into the design, and coordinated design and right-of-way with property owners, which is actively ongoing. And we're furthering the development of station concept designs, which we'll talk more about here. So there are 2 main platform designs on the Blue Line extension: a center platform and a side platform. We're going to start with the center platform because it is the most common. 10 out of the 13 stations for the Blue Line extension will be center platform. For a center platform typical access, the platform is justified towards a major signalized intersection, with the other secondary access point to the platform having a Z crossing. A Z crossing is a design that's meant to improve safety of pedestrian crossings of track. It forces the person crossing the track to turn at 2 90-degree angles to orient themselves towards the tracks and create more awareness of their surroundings. There are also some unique access conditions. On this slide, we're looking at Plymouth Avenue Station. Plymouth Avenue Station is unique because it is centered between 2 major signalized intersections with protected walkways up to those station platforms without a Z crossing. For the center platform, there are 3 canopies, and I'll also mention that every single center platform is exactly the same when on the platform. So there are, at the 3rd points, 1 canopy, and underneath it, you'll see the windscreens and other elements that we'll get into in the further slides. So we're going to start from the far left-hand edge of the platform and continue to the right. So this will be broken into 3 sections. So starting from the far left hand of the center platform, after coming to the intersection and going down the protected walkway, you'll find a sloped walkway that will take you from sidewalk level up to platform level, which is about 14 inches up. This is not technically a ramp. It is very gradual, very soft, so it's technically called a sloped walkway. On the outside edges of the sloped walkway are concrete short knee walls, about 18 inches tall, with an 18-inch railing on top with a handrail. At the very top of the sloped walkway, once you've gotten onto the flat portion of the platform, you will find card readers on both sides at the end of those railings. Directly ahead is, underneath the first canopy, is the ticket vending machine. It's very important for Metro Transit that these ticket vending machines are under cover so that you're protected from the elements while purchasing your ticket. And then behind that, you'll see the windscreens. These windscreens are glazing in aluminum frame, so similar to the windows around us, but underneath the platform canopy. Under each canopy, there are 4 seats that are built into the station platform, 2 facing each track. So on the center platform, you access both directions, northbound and southbound, from the same platform, similar to many of our stations today. On the far end of the first canopy, replacing the very far windscreen, is the Metro Transit Standard Information Kiosk. And then just outside of the first canopy, at the third point of the platform, is the trash receptacle. Continuing to the center portion of the platform, there is the trash can from the last page, so we have a little bit of overlap. The next element that you'll come across is a station marker. These are large, they're about 20 feet tall wayfinding signs. We call them station markers. Each will be unique to the station, so it is an identification and a wayfinding element. It also has a curb on the bottom, so it can act as a secondary seating position. And then beyond the station marker is a communications cabinet. It's necessary for the running of our system. And then you'll come across the second canopy, which is in the center of the center platform. This is a good drawing to see the tactile warning tiles along the edges of the platform. So these are those truncated dome tiles that warn you that you're coming up to the edge of the platform. There are also, they look like dots, but there are between car barriers, so they are varying, there are two different heights of yellow plastic bollards that span the space between the train cars when they pull up, so that you cannot, so that there's a warning, you can't fall between the train cars. So again, underneath this center canopy, we have the windscreens, same orientation underneath each canopy, and 4 seats again, 2 facing each direction. Just outside of the center, the second canopy is the electrical cabinet, and then on the far side of that is the second station marker. These platforms are symmetrical, so if you drew a line down the center of the second canopy, it is a mirror image. So going to this third slide, for the third canopy, it is a mirror image of the first canopy. We have our trash outside of the canopy, and then under the canopy, the Metro Transit Info Kiosk first, our windscreens with seats, and then on the far end, a windscreen with the ticket vending machine on the backside facing that sloped walkway. You have 2 more card readers at the top of the sloped walkway on the flat portion of the platform, and then your railing on knee wall taking you back down the sloped walkway. This is what we have for center. Do I wait for, sorry. If you guys have any questions on the center platform, I'd be lovely to take those.
Go for it, Doug.
Yeah, I didn't see any mention of door indicator tiles like we have on Green Line.
Thank you so much for calling that out. Yes, we do have door indicator panels. From where I'm sitting, it's very hard to see, but there are 2 tactile tiles outside of that main line that indicate the front door to the train. And we've had requests for door indicator tiles at other doors to the trains, but the trains aren't all the exact same, but we know that the front door will always stop at the same place, so the front door is marked. Thank you.
Is there anybody online who has specific questions regarding the platform, the center platform design? All right, continue.
Okay. Thank you. Next slide, please. Okay. Now we're going to talk through the side platform. The side platform is 3 out of the 13 stations. These are West Broadway Station, James Avenue Station, and Lowry Avenue Station. We have a rendering here. I'd just like to talk through a few key elements. The side platform is split with 2 smaller platforms on either side of tracks that run between. And there are still 3 canopies, and that sloped walkway with the railing is seen here. So it's hard to say what a typical access for a side platform is because there's only 3 and they're all different. But West Broadway Avenue Station is the most typical because it's similar to the typical center platform. It is justified towards a major signalized intersection. And the secondary access point, there's an RRFB, which is a rectangular, regular flashing beacon, the pedestrian button that flashes the lights so that you have a safer crossing. And then there is that longer protected walkway. It will have railings on both sides that will lead you to the station platforms and a track crossing right before those. Lowry Avenue Station is by far our most unique side platform. It is going to be situated between two bridges that will carry County Road 81 overhead, and access to the platform will, on the western side, will be through the Minneapolis Park Board land. You'll connect from the Grand Rounds Trail at this station. And also on the north end of this station, because of the constriction of the site based on the bridges above, the main access to the platform is turned 90 degrees. So you go up the sloped walkway and take a 90-degree turn onto the platform. We foresaw people hopping the railing to get to the trails quicker here. So at the north end of Lowry Avenue Station, there are 2 steps from those platforms. So you can either take the sloped walkway at a 90-degree turn or continue straight down 2 steps to get to those trail connections faster. And then on the southern end of the Lowry Avenue Station, it is a more typical Z crossing over the tracks. At Lowry Avenue Station, there will also be drop-off spaces along Theodore Wirth Parkway. So for the side platform, there are still 3 canopies on each platform, but because it is split, there are 6 total for the station. 3 on the northbound platform and 3 on the southbound platform, with the tracks running in between. Next slide, please. So we're going to walk through one side of the side platform because they are mirror images across the tracks. So again, starting from the far left hand of the platform and going right. From the access point or trail, depending on which station you're at, you'll again approach the sloped walkway that has the concrete knee wall with railing on top that leads you up that gentle slope 14 inches above grade. At the very top on the right-hand side is a single card reader. And then just past that, in line with the railing, is the Metro Transit Standard Information Kiosk. Continuing straight, underneath the first canopy, you'll find the ticket vending machine. And behind that, there's a similar pattern of windscreens with 2 seats that face the tracks. On side platforms, because it is a one-sided platform, there is either windscreen or railing along the whole backside of the platform to prevent fall. And then just outside of the first canopy is the trash receptacle. So now on the the second canopy, we're at the center point of the side platform. You'll see the station marker again. It's in a different orientation from the center platform. Here it is parallel and along the back edge in line with that railing to keep it out of the walking path. And then there's another electrical cabinet here. Continuing forward, there is the second canopy underneath which is a windscreen along the back edge with 2 arms coming out to protect from wind with chairs in the center facing the tracks. And then just outside of the second canopy, there is the communications cabinet and another station marker along that back edge. So like the center platform, the side platform is a mirror image. We are at the third canopy and on the far right end of the platform now. So there's the trash outside of the left-hand side of the third canopy, and then under the canopy, same windscreens and seats. And then on the far side of those windscreens, still under the canopy, is the second ticket vending machine with the info kiosk along the back edge just outside of the canopy, and the card reader at the top of the sloped platform, which will then take you back down to grade with railings on either side. I'll pause here if there are any questions or clarifications. I'd be happy to take those.
There are no questions from members in the room. Are there committee members online that have questions about the side platform station design?
Chair, this is Ken.
Take it away, Ken.
Hi, Mary Beth and Cigolo. Thanks for such a clear explanation. I do have one clarification question that I think I know the answer to, but I want to make sure everybody understands. So you mentioned that the stations are going to be in the center of the street, which means to get from the sidewalk to the station, and this is my question, we're going to have to cross traffic lanes?
Thank you, Chair, committee members. It's a little bit site specific. In most stations, yes, you will be crossing lanes of traffic to get to the station. But every station where you're crossing traffic lanes will have a signalized intersection. Oftentimes, the secondary access point will have that RRFB, the flashing beacon with the pedestrian button. Two that pop out in my mind that are exceptions to that rule are Lowry and James Avenue stations. Lowry Avenue, depending on where you're coming from, you may not have to cross traffic at all, coming from the trail system, the Grand Rounds trail system, or the Theodore Wirth Parkway. And James Avenue is in a unique location where there are a lot of bike routes. So depending on where you're coming from, you might not cross traffic.
Did you have a follow-up, Ken?
Okay, and yeah, and just for clarification, the rapid rectangular, rapid flashing, whatever the RF,
Yeah.
those guys, those are going to be equipped with audible pedestrian signals that, from my understanding, will have locator tones because they're not on corners, so they're difficult for people that can't see to find them. So they'll have a locator tone to be able to find them so people can align themselves up. And then they will also be complemented with voice indicating that the rapid flash is on. And the person will then need to proceed with caution because those rapid flash lights assume cars are going to stop. But in my experience, they don't always. And so I would never use those stops. I'd go out of my way to go further because I don't think they're safe for me, but people have their own ability to make choice. So crossing those, again, is you have the advantageous ability to have those red flashing lights. And they are red, right? Not yellow? Is that correct?
I believe they're yellow, but we can confirm. I'm not 100% sure on that, sorry.
Okay. We may have to have another chat about that, but I don't, again, the yellow flashing tells the driver to be cautious, but doesn't require them to stop. A red flashing kind of indicates they need to stop. So I have some definite thoughts about that we can chat offline about. But yeah, so those are being equipped with audible pedestrian signals to help people find them and get across safely. But again, it's not like a signalized intersection where the traffic has to stop. Thank you. I just wanted to make sure people understood that there would be a necessity to cross traffic lanes because the stations are in the center of the street.
Thank you, Ken, for bringing that up. To build on that, actually, how many of the non-signalized crossings are in this design? Is it a minimum number, or is it on every station?
Thank you, Chair, committee members. I would like to reference the drawing set to make sure I was giving you accurate information. But it is most of the platforms have a non-signalized crossing in addition to a signalized crossing. Plymouth Avenue has 2 signalized crossings, right? Lowry has none. So we can track down that information. I wouldn't want to give you a false information.
As you're probably gleaning, the disabled community is not thrilled with non-signalized crossings.
Absolutely. Yes.
Because you can't guarantee the car is going to stop for you.
I totally understand. I agree with that sentiment.
But they're valid applications in transportation design. Even if we don't like them, they're still there.
Yes.
Did you have another follow-up, Ken, or anybody in the room on this particular? Yeah.
No, I'm good.
Okay.
I just want to make sure that at all stations, there's at least one signalized crossing, correct?
At least one, yeah.
Not Lowry.
Chair, committee members,
But not
Lowry does not have a signalized intersection. There are 2 crosswalks with Theodore Worth, but it is it's very easy to get to the Lowry station without crossing a road because it's mainly connecting to the Grand Rounds. So it depends on where you're coming from.
Okay.
At that station, all other ones will have a signalized crossing.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right.
Okay,
That's all the questions on non-signalized crossings.
thank you. Next slide, please. Oh, look at that.
Chair, committee members, that concludes our presentation today. We'll see if there are any additional questions.
Any broader questions from committee members, either online or in the room? It's hearing
If
none.
nobody has any questions, I do have one last comment.
Do it, Ken.
I want to publicly thank the staff working on this project, starting with Cigolo and Mary Beth and all the other staff members that I've engaged in conversations with. They have listened to my concerns. They have understood my concerns around accessibility. And I'm speaking accessibility on a general means, not only just accessibility for blind, low vision travelers, but of course that's my bailiwick, right? The blind, no vision or low vision travelers. But I have to just commend the staff for being so open and willing to listen and try to understand the concerns that I've raised, and then to engage those concerns into action that really add to something to the platform that helps mitigate those issues. They've been completely open. I don't get the sense that there are any eye rolls when I bring something up. There's no sighs. They understand what I'm talking about and ask questions and implement solutions. So I just want to, again, publicly commend the staff for being willing, number one, to listen, to understand, and to implement in a way that makes sense for our community and keeping riders safe.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ken.
Perfect note to end on. I couldn't have said it any better. Thank you both for coming.
Thank you very much.
All right. H line. Alyssa, welcome, Alyssa, come on down. Let us know who y'all are and just dive right in.
Perfect. Hello, I hope you all can hear me. Thank you for having me, Chair, committee members, both in person and online. My name is Alyssia. I do go by Sia, and I am the Community Outreach Coordinator for the Metro H Line. I'm here with my colleague who can introduce himself.
Hello, everyone. I am Jordan Kosak. I am the lead planner for the planning phase of the H-Line project.
All right, so again, we are here to give a brief overview of the Metro H-Line as we are in our draft corridor plan. So before we get started, I want to be able to give you a little bit of context on how the H-Line was identified. For context, the H-Line or the Metro H-Line was identified through the Network Next. The Network Next launched in 2019 as a 20-year plan for expanding and improving the bus network, which is including but not limited to new arterial bus rapid transits or BRTs. There were 19 candidate corridors that were selected to go through a 4-step evaluation process and narrowed down to 3 corridors. In March of 2021, the Como, Maryland corridor was identified as the Metro H-Line and adopted by the Metropolitan Council and into the Regional Transportation Policy Plan. So this is just a little bit of information about the H-Line and what it entails. So the H-Line, or the Metro H-Line, is Metro Transit's 8th arterial BRT line within the Metro network. It will connect downtown Minneapolis to Sunray Transit Center on St. Paul East Side through Washington Avenue, Pleasant Street, 15th, Como, Maryland, and White Bear Avenue. The Metro H-Line will provide a new crosstown service, filling a gap along the Maryland Avenue. It connects to existing Metro lines like the A, the E, the Green Line, and the GO Line, and it will connect to future Metro H lines such as the F, the G, the Bronze, and the Blue Line extension, which we just heard from, so that's nice. What we're showing right now is an image of the current Metro network map. If you're looking at this image, you will see solid colored lines. Those are for the existing lines that we currently have. If you are also looking at the image, you will see dotted colored lines. Those are for the future planned lines that we have. In this, you will see that there is, obviously, for the existing lines, you have the blue line, the green line, the red line, the orange line, the gold line. And then you also have some arterial BRT existing lines like the A line, the C line, the B line, the D line, the E line. For the planned Metro network lines, you have the blue line extension, the green line extension, the gold line extension, the bronze line, as well as the F, the G, the H, the K, and the J. This also shows how the Metro H line fits into this overall Metro network. So this is just a little bit of information about the actual route itself. So the goal with the H-Line and all BRTs is to provide fast, frequent, all-day service. The Metro H-Line is a 17-mile BRT or bus rapid transit that again provides a west to east connection primarily on Washington, Como, Maryland, and White Bear Avenues. There are 45 proposed stations, with 3 of them being shared with the Metro Bronze Line on Maryland. And those stations are Maryland and Clarence, Maryland and Hazelwood, and Maryland and White Bear westbound. The Metro H line will upgrade and replace the existing Route 3 with modifications to other routes. This image shows the overall H-line corridor, which again is showing that east to west connection from the Sunray Transit Center through to downtown Minneapolis. It also shows the current metro lines that it connects to, as well as the planned metro lines that it will connect to. So we're here to do a faster, more reliable ride. How is that achieved? That is achieved by having 2 to 3 stations per mile, which allows for less stopping, which increases the how fast the trip can be. There is near level curb for faster and more accessible onboarding. The buses also still have ramps. You pay before you board. So the fares are paid before getting on board, which allows for all-door boarding, which allows for quicker stops instead of individuals queuing with a bus operator. Buses also have transit signal priority, which extends a green light for a few seconds to allow the bus to go through. And then again, this allows for faster, frequent, all-day service. The image here that we are currently showing is a standard BRT bus station and platform. It includes a few key features like pylon markers, real-time next trip signs with on-demand audible announcements. This allows for people to be able to get this information about when to expect their bus without having to have a schedule. There's also shelters. The shelters can vary in size depending on the location. You have ticket machines and fare card readers that allow, again, for individuals to pay before they board. You can also buy a ticket online through the mobile app. You have emergency telephones, trash and recycling containers. There's a textured warning strip to let you know when you're essentially getting too close to the curb. And the platform is dark and gray concrete pattern. You have some benches as well as bike parking. One thing that's also not listed on here is that they tend to have heating as well that you can deploy when temperatures are below 40 degrees. Right now, what we're showing is the H-Line current project that is subject to change. Currently, again, we just talked about how the H-Line was identified back in March of 2021. There was some early project coordination that happened between 2024 and 2026. And right now, we're currently at our draft corridor plan, which we will get into a little bit later throughout the presentation. Within our corridor plan release that released on March 23rd also launches a comment period where we ask for feedback from the public. That comment period takes place between March 23rd through May 4th, and so we are currently in the second week of our comment period. After that, we move into our recommended corridor plan, which also allows another round of community engagement, and that period will take place in August of 2026. From there, we move into our final corridor plan approved, which shall happen in fall of 2026. From there, we move into engineering and design. That takes place in 2026 and 2027, so we have a lot of things happening this year. And then construction starts ideally in 2028. So again, right now we're currently in our planning phase. And this is where we identify, evaluate, and finalize the station and platform locations. And the corridor plan, which I just kind of mentioned, is released right now. Like I said before, we have released our draft corridor plan on March 23rd, which establishes the policy basis for the H-Line station locations. This phase also includes robust engagement with riders and the public on project information. So we go out, we make sure that those who are impacted or interested or both are aware of the project, let them know how they're able to participate and provide their feedback to help shape the contents of the corridor plan. At this stage, we also gather input and coordinate with our agency and public partners. And for this project in particular, our agency and public partners are the City of St. Paul, Ramsey County, the City of Minneapolis, Hennepin County, MnDOT, University of Minnesota, and the Minneapolis Park and Recreation Board. What we're showing now is what is included in the corridor plan. So again, right now we're currently asking for feedback from the public when it comes to the proposed station locations, as well as the proposed platform locations within the station intersection. There's also more information about how and why each of those proposed locations were determined. Again, with inside of the draft corridor plan is more information about these proposed stations and platform locations. Every station has a station concept that illustrates the platform location and context. It also allows you to have information about the coordinated projects that are happening at those proposed stations. And the station and platform designs will be finalized during our engineering and design phase, which is set place to take place in 2026, 2027. Again, we are in a draft corridor public comment period. So we do a 6-week public comment period from March 23rd through May 4th. So we are in our second week. This is where we ask the public to give a lot of information, all the information as we possibly can get about the proposed location, station locations, as well as the proposed platform locations. We also try to build a lot of awareness around the project. We go to community spaces, we attend community events, we do a lot of pop-ups, we talk to neighborhood organizations, business associations, district councils, et cetera, and we do actual in-reach within Metro Transit with our own Metro Transit operators and Metro Transit staff. The survey, which we'll have a link for you, is our primary tool for collecting input. We offer online surveys as well as paper, and they are translated into 6 different languages. So you have English, Somali, Oromo, Vietnamese, Hmong, and Karen. Right now, we're just talking about some of the public engagement strategies that we take. So our goal is to collect feedback via online, excuse me, or in-person surveys. Sometimes this information comes in through phone calls, as well as emails, and we take all of that information as well. The goal here is to engage riders who are on the bus or at bus stops. We do door knocking to proposed station neighbors. We send postcards, which a postcard actually just went out today, so we got some calls about that, which very happy. We do postcard mailers to homes and businesses and property owners along the corridor. We also follow that up with a supplemental letter with more detailed information for the neighbors who are the closest to these stations. We do targeted door knocking. We have some lawn signs that you'll see on some of Metro Transit's property and flyering. We've connected with the University of Minnesota because there's a very large student population to do some coordination with them to make sure that we're getting the student feedback. And we also partner with US Bench to place some ads along the corridor. Those are just some of the strategies that we have for public engagement. Again, our project partners, so we are in collaboration with Hennepin County, Ramsey County, the City of Minneapolis, the City of St. Paul, the University of Minnesota, and the Minneapolis Park and Recreation Board. The project partners include the Blue Line Extension, Washington Avenue Bikeway Project, Como Avenue Southeast Corridor Improvements, Maryland Avenue Corridor Study, the Bronze Line, White Bear Avenue Corridor Study, and reconstructing all non-compliant curb ramps at every quadrant of each station location. So what are our next steps? Again, this is the first of 2 public comment periods. The first one, again, runs March 23rd. I'm gonna just publicly, shamelessly plug it every time I get it. It's March 23rd through May 4th. Our second comment period happens August through September of 2026. And then the final corridor plan would be approved in fall of 2026. And right now we have a QR code on the screen that you're able to use to go to our project website. If not, we also have the project website linked. This is where you can review more information about the project itself, read our draft corridor plan, and then share your feedback through our survey. Again, the survey is in multiple different languages, and we ask that you please comment by May 4th or sign up for our H-Line newsletter where we do regular updates. And thank you for having me. We are ready to take any questions that you have.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Sia. Excuse me. Are there any members with questions in the room or online? Yeah, Ken. Go ahead, Ken.
Yeah. So a couple of questions. We are starting to notice that the platforms that have now being created because of the BRTs, especially, well, in places where they interact with bus routes, are creating what seem to be called bus islands. And that's where normally a bike path is close to the street, if not on the street, close to the curb, and it runs parallel to the curb. But when it intersects with a bus island for the BRTs, and the bus island is long, the bike trail has to go somewhere. So it either has to go around the bus into traffic, or what we're starting to see more and more of is the bike path is being moved up onto the sidewalk to go between pedestrians and the and the bus platform, thus creating this sort of bus island concept. But it causes some interaction with bike paths and pedestrians. And that is a dangerous situation whenever bike paths and pedestrians intersect. And a pedestrian from a sidewalk is going to have to cross the bike path to get to the bus pad for a BRT. What is currently being done to mitigate this interaction between bike lanes and pedestrians and bus platforms?
Ken, this is David, just for clarification for myself. Are you asking about when multiple buses are kind of backed up at this bus platform?
Nope.
Okay.
Nope.
Ignore my question then.
I can take this one. So, Chair, committee members, thank you for the question. Committee members, right, our preferred approach, it doesn't happen in every case, but when possible, we do like to route the bike facility behind the platform. And this is because it avoids conflicts with the buses stopping at the station platform and also general vehicle traffic and bike riders moving into the general traffic lane and having conflicts with motor vehicles. As the committee member points out, this does then lead to some potential conflicts with pedestrians who need to cross the bike facility to access the platform. There are some approaches that we have taken. A good example that comes to mind is Hennepin Avenue, downtown Minneapolis, where there is sidewalk level. Okay, well, you at least are familiar with this location. I would say this is kind of the best approach we've had so far, where you do establish a crosswalk that crosses the bike facility, because it's technically a travel lane, and there is some sort of fencing or screening that tries to direct the transit users to go to those crosswalk areas to cross. I'm not 100% certain here, but I believe there are tactile warning strips at those crossing areas as well that sort of indicate this is a crossing place. But I do think that there is a responsibility for the people who are biking to treat those crosswalks like they are crosswalks. And I'm sure the experience is that bike riders aren't really yielding at these locations, and that's a user behavior issue, and I think something that is a concern and something that we can continue to think about and work on. What are other tools or treatments that signal or indicate to bike riders that they need to yield to pedestrians and yield to people using the crosswalk to access the station? So I know that's maybe not a totally satisfactory answer, and I think it's something that is in continuous development of how we can improve that design and improve that situation to make the experience, more safe and more comfortable for everyone who's passing through or using the platform.
Yeah, and this is Ken. And respectfully, I want to identify the Hennepin example that you gave is not a good example of something that works well. Number one, the tactile warning indicators, which are technically called tactile walking surface indicators, they're being used in a way that the blind community has no idea what it means in the middle of a sidewalk. Tactile walking indicators typically are used when you're about to step off a curb ramp into the street or you're at an edge or a drop off. But when somebody encounters those tactile bumps in the middle of a sidewalk, it causes confusion because that's not what they're intended to be used for. That's not what we've been trained to encounter tactile surface dots like that, the way they're being used. So number one, it confuses people that are blind, visually impaired, and could cause even more danger for somebody interacting with an oncoming bike. And I will tell you, even though it's a behavior that bikers are going to have to concede, they're not. They presume they have the right of way and they're moving, and if you can't see them, you can't stop for them. So for riders that have sight, they're fine. They can remain safe trying to cross that walk that's been created. But for blind users, number one, we can't find the crossing. And number two, we can't be sure that a bike's not going to roll us down as we step across that bike path. So for that reason, the national organization that I belong to, American Council of the Blind, is introducing this summer a resolution to urge planners and transportation units and public works departments not to use floating bus islands. They are a danger to people that are blind, visually impaired, traveling on sidewalks, and need to use those platforms. And surely we can come up with another design that doesn't risk the bike riders on their paths and doesn't risk pedestrians or riders that have visual impairments trying to get onto bus platforms. So I would just urge you all as planners to engage the blind, visually impaired, disabled community to have discussions with bike users so that maybe collectively people can come up with a solution to this. Currently, what's being rolled out is not working. And I fear that somebody's going to be hurt pretty badly.
Jasmine.
Real quickly, Sam, did either one of you want to respond before we go to Sam?
So Chair, committee members, just a final response on that thought for me is the points are all well taken. There are going to be some instances in the H-Line project. Washington Avenue comes to mind where Hennepin County has a bikeway project that is going to be very likely implementing sidewalk level bikeways. And so this is an issue we're going to have to think through on the H-Line project. Probably beyond the planning phase where we're at now, but the points are all well taken, and I think they're all very legitimate issues that we will take seriously and work towards the best solution on.
Yeah, and just a final comment here is I'm not advocating that these not be done. What I'm advocating is that before these get implemented and baked into the design process, that we bring the blind, visually impaired community together with planners and bike riders and figure out what we can come up with collectively. I think we have the smarts and intelligence to be able to create something that's safe for everybody, but it's only when we're all at the table talking about this that we can have that kind of a solution result.
Thank you, Ken. What I'm hearing is learn from previous applications and where they might not be perfect and improve on them. Don't just do the same thing again.
Exactly.
Yeah, we'll stay engaged on that specific topic. Sam, Jasmine.
Chair and presenter, I don't mean to beat a dead horse, so to speak, but I do, and I'm not even a part of the committee that Ken is talking about, but as an individual user of buses and all of these tactile markers, I can understand where he's coming from and also relate to the whole Hennepin thing, which I fairly often work at the public library downtown. And I will tell you that those markers, at first I didn't realize what they were. And then when somebody told me, now I have seen bikers be fairly careless. And I will tell you, I hold my breath every time I have to cross them because I never know until they're right up by me when a bike's coming. So that being said, I'll let that one lie, but I hope you do take these seriously. Thank you for hearing my comment.
Thank you, Sam. Yes, go ahead.
Chair and committee members. Yeah, just I guess some more thoughts on the Hennepin one as an example. So I did, this was several years ago now, but I did do a field walk with some members of the blind vision impaired community. I think Blind Inc. was there. It was organized by the city of Minneapolis. But just some thoughts as I'm hearing some of the discussion here that I'm thinking through is one thing that some people brought up is, a lot of these treatments are new, and then it's like every project, it gets tweaked a little and then modified a little. And so part of the issue that people brought up to me at that time was that every platform, it's like the design's a little different, and could there be like a standardized design that is like wherever you go, like this is how the layout's going to be every single time, and that's not really what's happening right now. And obviously what happened on Hennepin, it sounds like is still not really what people want to see. But to me, I think that's something to work towards, and I don't know how and when we might get there, but we do keep continuing to build these arterial bus rapid transit lines and other bus facilities, and this issue continues to arise, and I think that'd be a goal in my mind to work towards is finding what are the standard elements that do work, that are going to work for all the users, so there's a reasonable expectation wherever you're catching or riding the bus that's going to be a similar experience.
Thank you. Oh yeah, Carrie.
I just wanted to know, I see on the maps that you're getting to Rice and Maryland, but I wanted to know if you were doing anything on Rice Street, because I see signs out, but there's nothing happening.
For like Rice Street construction, is that what you mean?
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't have that information right now. I do know that there is construction happening on Rice Street. I think that is part of the Rice Street reconstruction project that is led by the city of St. Paul. Please correct me if I'm wrong. And I don't have any information on that right now, but what I'm hearing you say is your question is around the signs and what type of construction is happening in that area right now currently. I do believe that the Rice, a G-line station is being constructed during this time as well. And what I can do is get you in contact with the G-line coordinator, Nasser, if it's okay with you to pass your information on so that we can get you more information about the construction project as well as what's happening on the G-line that's happening kind of right now. As we speak.
So the G line is going to be on Rice Street then?
Yes.
Okay.
And that is where the H and the G will kind of intersect.
Okay.
With
I'll
Rice and
reach out to
Maryland.
you.
Yeah.
Are there any other questions or comments online or in the room from anybody? Well, I appreciate the robust public engagement that you all do. I'm always impressed. All the different methods with which you engage the public. It shows me that y'all are serious about this, which isn't always the case with public entities, but Metro Transit does a great job. No more questions? All right, thank you very much.
Yes, thank you, Chair and committee members. Thank you.
All right, are there any members online who did not, who were not present for roll call?
I wasn't present for roll call because I can't figure out how to get my Microsoft Teams to work on my computer.
I'm just glad you showed up, Daryl, because you were our last quorum holdout. So thank you for popping in.
I figured I would, so that's why I did. So
with that said, we can before we do our last agenda item, we can move on to the business of approving the agenda and the minutes. I would entertain a motion to approve the April agenda.
I'll approve.
Thank you, Claudia. We have a second. All in favor, please say aye. Oh, I'm sorry, wait. Discussion. Is there any discussion? Perfect. All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Opposed, nay? Abstentions? Cool. I would entertain a motion to approve March minutes, which have been sent out, and we also have in the room in front of us.
So.
Thank you, Carrie.
Second.
Second again. Thank you very much. Is there any discussion? Awesome. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay? Abstentions? Fantastic. We will go back. I did hold off on the legislative update agenda item, Daryl, because I thought you might want to chime in on it or ask a question on it. Given that that this is the week that session is paused for spring break and other various things, the three government relations people are taking much needed breaks, and they are actually not working this week, but they did provide us with a written update, and they will be here next month. There are 3 bills that they're looking at currently, but I did want to leave a couple minutes for folks to ask questions if they have them or have concerns to bring forward. Do any members have questions or concerns or thoughts on the update that was provided to us in writing?
Yes, Chair, my concerns and my thoughts would be to that they should be able to provide us a monthly update of that during the session time. So that means that we would have received one in February and March as well. If they're not going to appear with us in person, then they should provide that update to us in an alternative format, and they should provide it in a manner that we can receive it ahead of time, which I was glad to see it. So,
Thank you, Daryl. Does anybody else have any questions or thoughts? All right, moving on to, we have the rare occurrence of non-Metro Transit or Metropolitan Council employees chatting with us. I hope you are both online. Please let me know if you are, Alex and Judy.
working.
I'm here, it's Judy.
Alex is here.
Awesome. I see both of you. Fantastic. We have a slide deck from you relating to on-demand paratransit around the country. This is something that is unfortunately took this long to be up and coming. We're doing work here in the Twin Cities, but other metropolitan areas are also doing work in this, and I think this committee can learn from things that are happening around the nation when it comes to on-demand paratransit. I will let, I've had multiple conversations with Alex and Judy. I think this is going to be important and very informative to the members here. So I will let you two introduce yourselves in any fashion you want. If you want to give us your whole CV, please don't do that. But you can introduce yourself however you see fit. I see Judy right now nodding her head, so I'll let you go first.
Sure. Hi, everybody. I'm Judy Shanley. I'm the National Director for Transportation and Mobility at the National Office of Easter Seals. I'm a seasoned white woman wearing glasses, and my background is in Easter Seals Orange, and I'm excited to talk to you today. Thank you. Alex?
Yes, hi, everyone. It's a pleasure to be here. My name is Elegudin. I am a national transportation advocate. I formerly served as the head of accessibility at the New York City MTA, which is the largest transit system in the nation, and also served as the head of accessibility for the New York City Taxi Limousine Commission, which is one of the largest taxi regulators in the country. And Judy and myself are part of a consortium of 30 plus transit agencies working to kind of modernize and improve paratransit across the country, and on-demand is a big focus of our work. I'm also a quadriplegic wheelchair user and utilize many of these services and based out of New York City. So should we jump in?
Yep, jump right in. Our IT guru has your slides up, and you can just say next slide when you want to move on to the next slide. We also have paper copies in front of us as well, and it was emailed out to the members. So thank you for providing that. And yeah, just dive right in. Would you prefer to hold questions till the end, or do you like questions in the middle? I can make it work either way.
Well, we'll take it both ways. We really want a discussion. I mean, we're going to present some facts and numbers, but a discussion would be great. So we're happy to take them as they come.
Sounds good. And we have probably 25, 30 minutes. So you got a decent chunk of time, so you don't have to rush through stuff. But so if folks have questions during, you can put your hand up in the room. If you're online, sometimes I can't see the hands come up, but feel free to just jump in when it seems appropriate. Take it away.
Great. Thank you so much. I'm going to jump in. I hope you all don't mind. I'm going to turn off my video just because having a little bit of Wi-Fi issues today. So we're going to talk today about on-demand paratransit across the country. We're going to share some information on various models that exist. Next slide, please. Some of this information is just going to be a review. It's things that I imagine you all know, because there is some. I know there is some on-demand paratransit already happening, but we want to present different models to really have a discussion about what works, what are expansion options, what are other tools that agencies are using. This slide just talks about, as a background, what are some of the hallmarks of on-demand paratransit. Obviously, it is generally a rider-initiated trips, right, which is somewhat differentiated from traditional paratransit service. You choose your provider. There are multiple providers generally to choose from. Obviously, it is almost always on demand, which in terms of what that sounds like, it's clear. But some agencies across the country, on demand, you think within minutes, but some have created windows of maybe within an hour, or near what we call sometimes near on demand. So these are just some of the parameters, and we'll see how they're kind of used as we move forward. Next slide, please. So, why are agencies moving in this direction? We all know as users, myself, I'm a user of paratransit, the issues with some of traditional service and on-time performance and lack of, lack of flexibility and things like that. But also, on-demand service has helped relieve capacity issues on dedicated fleets and in traditional models, something that sometimes isn't thought of. Also, cost savings, lower cost, and this is still kind of a debate around the country whether on-demand paratransit lowers costs. I think for the most part, as cities are evolving their programs from pilots into small programs into bigger programs, lower costs are being realized. Meaning there is beliefs, and we'll talk about this a little bit more, and arguments to be made that because, yes, when you have on-demand paratransit, ridership goes up, so the increase in demand can sometimes play a role in negating the cost savings on a per trip basis. But what programs have really shown is when you have the right formula of potentially cap subsidies or different models, the cost savings can be realized, customers can be happier, you can do more trips, and you can save money. So it's a little bit of what we're there are other reasons, and obviously Judy, my colleague, is going to talk about this more a little bit later. The ridership rave reviews across the board, customers and riders want more and more of the service. And aside from all these kind of technical aspects of what it does for agencies, the fact that customers want this is why many agencies across the country are stepping up and trying to find ways to do more and offer more options. Next slide, please. So there's different models, and we'll get into them, but the most common way that on-demand paratransit works is a voucher subsidy, meaning that an agency is either giving a digital voucher to customers in some way, shape, or form, or they have a direct subsidy agreement with a provider. Something that we're not talking a lot about today, but it's something that become very common and almost part or parallel to the conversation of on-demand paratransit is rescue trips and rescue ride and hybrid types of models. So a lot of agencies, when they have an on-demand paratransit model, they use themselves a rescue trip type model where if there isn't enough, even on traditional service, if there isn't enough capacity or trips are falling behind, they will use the same providers or the same contracts to help deal with any trips that may be issues or falling off a route within traditional service. Another staple of on-demand paratransit is multiple provider networks. And I say this because I know locally, Minnesota is using, one or two or three providers. When you look around the country, you'll see transit agencies contracting with 5 or 6 providers, sometimes even more, and letting customers really determine what works best. Obviously, the contracts and the parity between the contracts is something to be negotiated. But I think the multiple provider networks both help with capacity, help with customer choice. And, two providers could look identical on paper, but a lot of times what you see is there are nuances and differences, and some customers prefer one over the other, and that's totally fair. Just like, anyone could prefer one airline over another or however they choose to do it, even though they fly similar planes and fly to the same areas. So I think the multiple provider network piece is also a big deal. Next slide, please. So, this is something that's important, and we're going to bring to life more with examples soon, but built-in controls around on-demand paratransit. And this is really meant to have, for fiscal reasons, for a variety of reasons, paratransit operators and agencies across the country have put this into place. And I think it's all about finding the right recipe of these elements, right? Caps and subsidies, right? And caps and subsidies are not always the same thing because, cap subsidies and trip limits, I'm sorry. Subsidies are how much subsidy you're providing, what is the copay, what is the base fare. Trip limits are how many trips are you offering a month. Most agencies around the country are limiting. Some are limiting at 40. Some are limiting at 60 trips per month. Some are even limiting at 100. And it depends on a lot of factors, and I'm going to talk about that as we get into some of these things. But I think geography, equity play a really big role. I'll use New York City as an example because it's closest to me. I know New York City is not always everyone's favorite example because of, the massiveness. But if you provide a, $40 subsidy, and 40 trips per month, hypothetically, um, the subsidy part is how far will a $40 subsidy in New York City get you if you live on the border of Manhattan, right? In New York City, most people work and go to Manhattan. Or if you live very far out in Queens, and that's just a distant borough. And one thing that we thought about in New York City is we want to give a tiered structure of subsidies to create equity. We don't want just a one universal subsidy that for some people is going to get them, 4 miles, which is still 5 miles away from where they're going. And for others who happen to live closer to, general activity areas or business districts or whatever it is, and that's going to get them there. So I think understanding the geography and how to use these tools and what it means for customers is really, really important. And we had a tiered structure where for longer trips, we had less trips available to you in terms of your subsidy and your voucher. For shorter trips, you had more. So if you were doing more localized trips, you could do that. And if you wanted to travel further at times, you could do that as well. So I think these are all things that become part of the recipe. And, every region, every area needs to figure out for themselves. But it's important to know many places have utilized them very, very successfully. And some of the other things on here, just, eligibility plays a role, the opt-in aspect of it, real-time data, which is kind of important and something that used to be an issue with on-demand paratransit. And again, a lot of places around the country are also offering, even though they're using potentially TNCs or otherwise, offering phone access. So next slide, please.
This is David, are you gonna go into how the tiered subsidy structure works later, or can I ask that right now?
Let me do an example and then you can ask. I think
Okay.
we have an example coming up right now.
Kind of had a feeling you'd do an example, so I'll leave it alone. Go ahead.
I'm going into examples now. So next slide, please. This is just talking about how common this has become in the various cities and regions that are implementing this. And some of the places on here are also implementing versions of on-demand in their micro transit programs as well as their paratransit programs. So we're not going to do all these. We're not going to be here for hours. I'm just picking 3 or 4. Next slide, please. So Boston, we're going to do Boston first, and Boston is probably one of the oldest and most evolved on-demand paratransit programs in terms of their user, the amount of users they have, how integrated it is into their program, how vast it is. Boston, some of the parameters are on the upcoming slide, but it's an opt-in program to use Uber or Lyft. I believe they also have 1 or 2 other providers coming on board. Riders book through the app, pay a copay, and have a subsidy. Now, Boston's model is a little unique, and most places around the country, haven't done this. But the way they do their trip cap is based on your historical usage. So if you're a high user, they give you a certain number. If you're a medium user, they give you a certain number. And if you're a lower user, they give you a certain number of trips within their subsidy that has changed from time to time, but I think now sits around $40 or $50. I don't remember exactly because it's moved around. And then at any given year, you can reevaluate kind of the historical context and how many trips you get. But Boston has seen a very significant per trip reduction in cost. For $56 down to $15 or $20, depending on the provider, which has been a very, very big deal. And they unlike they're using Uber and Lyft, who are very common providers in these types of arrangements. They've seen 53 more trips, but yet at the same time seen an overall net savings over their budget of 6%. So Boston's like a really, really great model, even though the way they do the tiering with the historical context of trips is unique to them. And, I believe the FTA has looked at it and It's been around for a long time, so I guess I guess it's fine, even though could raise some questions, but it works well for them. David, why don't you go in and maybe ask your question, and then I'll keep going to examples.
Regarding the tiered.
Yeah, the tiered, because
So my question was, what is a tiered subsidy structure? And I'm guessing the example you just gave, if you ride it a lot, you get more rides. Kind of like in Boston. Is that a good example?
I would describe that a little differently. So you can have tiered subsidies and you can have tiered trips, right? So Boston does a tiered trip model where the number of trips you're allocated is tiered. It's, low, high, low, medium, or high, depending on your trip utilization. The tiered subsidy structure, like what we did in New York, is you have a bulk set of 20 trips that have a $60 subsidy. You have a bulk set of 20 trips that are a $40 subsidy, and you have a bulk set of 20 trips that are a $20 subsidy, right? So when you're going a little closer, more localized, you only need $20, right? That's what you need to get, within a mile to go to your supermarket. Okay, you're going a little bit further, for whatever reason, you use that middle tier. So most places have tiered at 2 levels. I gave you an example of a 3-level tier. In New York City, we were tiering at $25 and $60, and then we tried a different phase and ended up at $40 or $60. And any region could kind of do it differently based on your fares, but we try to market, if you pick a distance, a medium average distance from like a local, like a place where most people live, to get to like the main central business district. What is that, and how far can that get most people?
Oh, I see there's a hand online. Sorry, I was taking voracious notes here. Just chime in. I did not see whose hand was online, but I did see somebody's hand pop up online. Or was that just a thumbs up?
I think Ken is muted right now.
Ken.
Take it away, Ken.
Ken, I have a question. So where does the money bucket come from that you're creating your subsidies or your vouchers from in the first place?
The transit agency. The agency is the one, through their contractual relationships, feeds the subsidy. So it becomes a complementary program that's funded through paratransit. In some places, legislators have added to paratransit budgets to kind of promote this kind of novel programs. And in most places, it's become part of the existing paratransit budget. Again, mostly working off, okay, if we take you off the debt, if we believe that on-demand paratransit is removing trips from traditional service, and we know those trips are coming at a great savings, right? On-demand trips tend to be, on average, I believe 50% or more cheaper than a dedicated carrier fleet. So how can we, play with that formula within our existing budget to move trips off, yet still maintain full capacity on traditional paratransit service? Does that answer your question?
Yeah, it does. Thank you.
Got it. So let me run through some more examples here. I do want to leave more time for questions and discussion. So this is Boston. Next slide, please. This just talks a little bit about a history of Boston. We can go past this. Next slide, please. New York City, again. New York City, again, not the world's best example, but at the same time, through on-demand paratransit, the cost per trip from dedicated carrier was $116, went down to $40. New York City is doing overall in their paratransit program 1 million trips per month, and more of a significant portion of that are becoming on demand. And sorry, my voice is just going out a bit. And New York City uses a variety of providers, taxi companies, TNCs, to do the on-demand program. things like that. So New York City, I've talked about more, so I'll keep going. Next slide, please. Portland's an interesting model because they, the TriMet model, they allow and work in a way where you can book even on-demand trips through the dispatcher or through their call center. That's not always something that's commonly done. A lot of times with on-demand programs, customers are booking directly through the app with whoever the provider is. But, TriMet has a slightly different version where you can book through the dispatcher and get matched based on what you're requesting. So I just thought that was interesting to highlight. There's different ways to even operationalize this. So that's why I brought that example here. Next slide, please. Nashville's program is becoming more and more kind of developed and evolved and becoming a much bigger portion of their paratransit. The rider pays the first $5 copay. The agency subsidizes $30 per ride. The rider covers anything above that, and they're allowing 100 trips per month. And that's 100 trips per month is a pretty significant number, probably one of the highest trip allowances on on-demand paratransit you see around the country. And they have a mixed network of providers. I mean, Uber is doing a significant share of their on-demand trips, but Nashville, the WeGo program gets incredibly great reviews. I mean, the customers love it. The agency loves it. It's been a great cost saver. It's added flexibility, and they use the same providers in the same system across some of their microtransit work as well. So Nashville WeGo has done really, really, really well. Next slide, please. Again, just some more parameters on how their program works, but I think I've covered the gist of it. So for time, I'll keep moving along. Yeah, Harris County. Harris County is an interesting one because you get a balance. They give their customers a balance. So you have a specialized card where you can buy $60. I'm just saying hypothetically, you add $60 of funds to use with providers. And then Harris County increases the balance. They used to do a match. It's a 60% match now. So they add additional funds, and then you get to use that toward booking your trip with a variety of on-demand providers through your card. So that the account balance model is done in a couple places. It's kind of novel. I kind of really like it because it gives you the most flexibility, but most agencies are not using that. So, but something to think about. It's interesting way to kind of do it. Next slide, please. Tampa Bay. This is an example of a first last mile rider choice program. Again, these are going more hand in hand where the same providers doing on demand are supplementing microtransit type models, and PSTA has a variety of partnerships with providers like Uber and Lyft, as well as other companies, and they have a zone-based program, and it's part of, kind of you pay a $5 voucher per trip, but you can start at certain places. And similarly, it's on demand, has great capacity, and is expanding in terms of the zones available, where you can go, and how you do it, and has some connection to their paratransit program in terms of providing some capacity and offloading. So I share this example, not necessarily for the trips and subsidies, caps and subsidies part, but to really think about how integration works across different models within the transit system overall. Once you have these providers, how can you keep them busy? How can you get customers more access to it? Because there's always, economies of scale and budget help. Next slide, please. I've talked about this already, cost savings and stuff. Next slide, please. I think I'm just going to hand it over to my colleague. You guys know about what Minnesota is doing already, so I'll skip this part. I'll go to my colleague, Judy. Next slide.
I think we
talk
should
about why it matters and take some questions.
Hold just one second.
Hi, everybody.
We should juxtapose real quickly. This is David. We should juxtapose with what I think we're doing here in Minnesota. I think, if you don't mind going back to that slide.
Sure. I'll go back one
I
slide.
know
and
most
I'll-
folks in the room understand what we have here, but I think it's good to juxtapose it because of all the different examples of on-demand paratransit that you gave from different cities, I feel like we have a little bit from each one of those. And also some other fun things too, which are on the screen here, but I think we should maybe talk about that because our premium on-demand service is quite similar to some of these other cities. And I think we should definitely juxtapose those or have them be in the same boat, if you don't mind.
Yeah, let's do it. David, sure, I'm happy to talk about it. David, do you mind talking about it a little bit? I know you know it probably even better than I do. I mean, I know premium on demand and subsidy limit that exists. Do you mind sharing a bit? I know you gave a report about this 2 months ago. So
Yeah, so I'll just kind of give an overview, and then if people who are more involved with it want to chime in, they can. Essentially, it's a subsidized taxi service, which do have accessible vehicles in there as well. We contract with different transportation providers around the Twin Cities. I think it's 35 or 40, up to 35 or $40. You pay the first $5.
25 is the cap.
Okay, so you pay the first $5 and then it caps out at 25. You have unlimited rides. There's not a number of rides you can have. We don't have a tiered system here, but I do like that idea. And it is on demand, accessible depending on what transportation provider is being used. So that's our premium on demand, which again is similar, I think, to other metro areas. It's only for Metro Mobility qualified users, the premium on demand. So that's that. If I missed anything and you want to chime in, please do.
No, you did great.
Okay.
The only other thing I would add is that Transportation Plus is not included on your slide here. They've been a partner with us since 2004. So we're going on a 22-year partnership with them already. You're correct about the Metro Micro, but you also should be including our transit link, which helps to provide that paratransit service into the more common areas of the metropolitan area from the outskirts of our area, more urban areas. So I think that we have pretty much incorporated a lot of the ideas that you brought in here.
got it. And I would ask if I would say, in terms of comparing certain things or the discussion, in terms of what agencies try to do, and I've spoken to many agencies around the country, is control the outliers. When you have unlimited trips, sometimes that create outliers or extremes. And it's not that you don't want to serve every customer. I think it's that you want to serve the average customer. And that's where you get into, unlimited trips is great. I'm sure customers love it. But does it create outliers that maybe make you cautious about increasing the subsidy? I mean, $25 on a national average is on the lower end. I know some of the cities are bigger, but even some of the smaller cities are offering higher numbers. I don't know the geography exactly of the region, but cannot get the average customer, not the person who lives the closest to the central areas, but also not the person who lives the furthest, but the average customer to where they want to go. And I think that's what this kind of discussion about the right recipe is meant to bring up. I don't know. I guess, can I ask you all the question? Have you thought about that? Do customers talk about that? How does that come up?
It comes up pretty frequently in terms of raising the subsidy. I have another question. I don't know if I should ask it because it will open a whole nother can of worms regarding TNC accessibility. I know that other metro areas have requested or worked with them to have accessible vehicles. We're not as, what's the word I'm looking for? We're not as successful here in Minnesota when it comes to ensuring that they have accessible options. But I know that's not the case across the country. I realize it's a whole other can of worms and we're pushing up on the last 10 minutes.
No,
go ahead.
I think it's a great question. Look, the toughest questions are the ones we need to talk about, right? Because I guess I know Uber and Lyft are not listed on your list of providers. Is the accessibility the main reason? Can I ask? I don't know from the agency?
Yes.
Or are there other reasons why Uber and Lyft?
In short, yes.
So when you look at, yes, when you look at some of the examples that we used, right? New York City and Boston, not great examples because they have mandates around wave service for Uber and Lyft, and they have an existing wave fleet, so it's kind of integrated or whatever. But when you look at Nashville, when you look at Tampa Bay, right, Pinellas County, I think there's a conversation to be had. Now, there's two versions of the conversation. Uber and Lyft, can you have wheelchair accessible vehicles available for our paratransit program? And how would that look like and what you can do? And sometimes there are ways. They're big companies, they can figure it out and they can meet that meet that goal, or they can't meet it. And the other conversation is we also want you to provide more general wheelchair accessible service in a region, right? So meaning not just for paratransit, we want it for consumer retail kind of rideshare. And can you use that to kind of get them to come around, right? It's difficult to legislate Uber and Lyft, or regulate Uber and Lyft. But how can you have a meaningful conversation with them that works, that makes the economics work? Because yes, it should be the right thing that they should be accessible. They are becoming accessible in more and more places around the country. It was 8 cities, now it's 10. I know in the next year or so it'll be 12. The Minneapolis, Minnesota region is a big region. They can do it. They should do it. They should want to do it. I mean, they're accessible in places like Phoenix, which is even smaller. So I think I'd like to, my opinion as someone who's an advocate, also worked as a professional in this area, is you have to bring them to the table. The time of suing Uber and Lyft over accessibility, it still exists, but it's becoming more in the past. There have been bruises on both sides. Advocates have lost lawsuits. Uber and Lyft have lost lawsuits. Trying to legislate them and fighting through lobbyists has been a difficult road too. Big cities have been successful. Some smaller cities haven't. So I think there's a way to make it happen. I think they're willing to come around. It just has to make sense. And it's a chicken before the egg problem. Does any given region, whether it's a municipality or a transit agency, give in and give them a contract before they're accessible? Or do they have to become accessible first and hope to become a provider where they're making money? So these conversations have happened across the country, and some have navigated them well, and some it's been more challenging because it's a standoff. But I really believe you bring them to the table that you have to have a resolution, because I'm not going to say, look, David, it shouldn't be accessible. That's not true, right? Anytime you're running a service like this, you have to have parity across needs, and wheelchair accessibility is a big one. So I'll pause there, but that's kind of how I've seen it play out across the country.
And Alex, this is Judy. Isn't it true that in some of these places that when some of these innovative models are used, that especially as an overflow system, that some of the opportunity for wheelchair accessible spaces opens up on traditional transit, and so the agency is learning they don't need as many waves in that service. So, but that comes from dialogue and data. And I just want to go through the next slide because it's just really foundational to our work. If you move to the next slide, please. I'm an educator by background, and this is about educating planners, educating agencies, and educating people themselves. And the why of all of this and what it means to individual riders has been the catalyst for many agencies across the country starting this. We know that the independence that it creates, the spontaneity it creates in terms of not having to book trips 24 24 hours, 48 hours in advance is critical. There's data associated with wait time. Often when you use a traditional paratransit service, wait times are long and the on-time performance is terrible. This creates opportunity for shorter wait time and better performance. Employment access, this creates spontaneity. I was talking to a colleague of yours in the state about how her on-demand service enabled an individual with disability to get 2 promotions in her job because retention and getting to work was no longer a problem. We know that accessibility is a critical need in all of this and is realized through many of these programs by both having phone apps and traditional telephone call-in systems to reserve. The real-time visibility is important. You could see GPS tracking where your vehicle is at any time, where traditional paratransit often doesn't do that. And the flexibility over return trips and timing and booking method. So as you can see, it's really not your father's paratransit system. And there's a place for a continuum of service. I've heard the continuum service described as a family of service of options. It has to be user-driven and needs-driven. Next slide, please. We just offered these comments on what it means to riders, and always think of that when you're considering this in your community, when you're building on the great work that Minnesota has done. These are some of the personal narratives that really drive looking at alternative paratransit delivery. And next slide. Just in a big summary, I know we're at time. The opportunity is that on-demand paratransit is possible. We've done a lot of pilot studies. FTA funded a lot of grants a number of years ago. It's not experimental as it was a number of years ago. Cost savings has really been documented. Riders want this. Riders see this as important to their lives to live independently, and the disability community is asking for this primarily because of its flexibility. There's not one way to do this. There's not a one-size-fits-all. Alex talked about all the different models, and those are the models that need to align with your capabilities as agencies and the needs of your riders. And we're just building on the foundation that Minnesota has. So that was quick and dirty and overview, but my message is always think about the rider. So thank you for the opportunity. Turn it back over to David unless there's questions.
I have 1 or 2 questions, but I want to open it up to the room and online as well.
I do.
Yeah, go ahead, Carrie.
Okay, I have a couple questions. On page 4, on how on-demand paratransit works, I don't see how you download an app or is that how that works? You have to download an app to what city you're going to? Is that how that works?
I'll jump in here real quickly.
Yes, so.
Go ahead.
Go ahead, David. Go ahead.
So they're using examples from around the country. This is kind of an emerging, new service that fits into what is already a transit system that is more or less accessible. It's not going to replace paratransit. It's just another option. It's kind of really in line with the Olmsted philosophy. Live, work, and play in the community of your choosing. And they're here to kind of just give us examples of how this is emerging around the country, including here. Minnesota's doing a pretty darn good job, actually, of kind of being on the front end of on-demand accessible transit. I might say that's a better way to describe it, on-demand accessible, because paratransit has very specific regulations and very specific things that you have to do, where with on-demand it's more market-driven, if you want to call it that. So there's not like a specific app that you download to go to other cities, but other cities do have their own ways of doing things. And that's kind of why we're here, is just to kind of explore what are other metropolitan areas doing when it comes to on-demand accessible transportation? And what are we doing too?
That's what I meant, when you get to this the city you're going to, is there an app when you get there?
I'll
That's
let
what
them
I
answer
was-
that question.
Well, I can answer that. You generally have to be an existing paratransit. So all these programs are opt-in, and all these programs are for eligible certified riders. So even if you were coming to Boston to be a part, if you were traveling to Boston, you would need to have been an existing paratransit Boston, the ride, that's their program, rider. You would have had to have passed an assessment, and then you would have had to have opted in to their on-demand paratransit program.
Okay.
So it's not really for like consumers who might arrive on any given day. It's for existing certified paratransit riders who opt into this program.
Okay.
But Carrie, this is Judy. The most efficient way to do this is when the on-demand opportunity is integrated in other transit options that a rider has. We want choice. You know, we want to use on-demand, or we want to use traditional paratransit, or we want to use some other service. And the way that you access that has to be efficient for you.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
So, can I jump in here a little bit? I have a question here a little bit.
What's the question?
Go for it.
Go ahead.
Okay. I have kind of two questions. One would be going back to the on-tiered demand and the untiered number of trips. What would be the reason for that? What would be the benefit to the consumer of that? As well, because like you said, in Minnesota, we don't have no demands on the number of trips you can take or anything like that. So I would like to keep it that way if we could, and understand the benefits of the other side, if there are benefits. And then the other question was, as far as the app, yes, Carrie, you would download an app. Like, for instance, when I go to Vegas, if I go to Vegas, I call Vegas ahead of time. And you can usually do this 2-3 days ahead of time because it takes a little bit. But what you do is you call the paratransit in Vegas, you tell them you're a paratransit user here, and then they'll give you a form. You fill out that form, and as long as they approve that form on the other end, then when I get to Vegas, all I have to do is jump on their paratransit, which is a 24-hour service, and I automatically get the subsidy of the Metro Mobility subsidy. I don't have to pay the high prices of taxis or on-demand service.
Okay. Thank you.
But that requires you to do some trip planning ahead of time. If you're going to other cities and you want to use a subsidized transit service.
Okay. Thank you.
So I'm happy to take the first question, which is the tiers and the structures. I mean, look, I'm a wheelchair user. I'm a quadriplegic. Unlimited all the time, unlimited trips and subsidies is what we dream of, right? Because we just want to go as far as we want to go, whenever we want to go. Look, the fiscal realities of the programs are a bit more complicated in terms of, we all live in a world where money's a real thing. The reason why I bring them up is I believe David gave the report a few months ago, and the average trip was less than 4 miles, or give or take 4 miles. I believe from an equity perspective, how far is 4 miles taking you, and how far is 4 miles taking one person as opposed to another, right? If the $25 is averaging 4 miles, or that's what you can get on average in this Minnesota region, what does that say from an equity perspective? And you have unlimited trips, but if the trip subsidy went up to $35 or $40 so that someone could travel further, right? Not 4 miles, right? You want to go 7 miles because you work 7 miles away from your home. I mean, 7 miles isn't that far. That creates a fiscal, I'm sure, for the agency, that would create a slightly different fiscal conversation. And maybe instead of unlimited trips, they'd be like, well, look, for us to be able to afford this and keep an average, we can offer 60 or 70 trips per month. I mean, it's a balance. If $25 is working for everyone and 4 miles is great, good. I know in many places, because what happens is after the $25, you're paying the rest. So if you're going 8-9 miles, you could be, putting $30 out of your pocket. That's a lot of money for people. It's certainly a lot of money for those with disabilities. So I think the conversation around the recipe and how far does it get you, and most cities have decided that a little bit further combined with the not unlimited trips is the recipe that it has been the recipe where they landed. So it's not about the pros and the cons. I know you say, hey, I want my unlimited trips, but there's some folks saying, hey, this isn't getting me far enough.
It's maximizing the reach of the programs to reach the maximum number of people and creating efficiency.
Yeah, I mean, true for employment. What if you get a new job and it's more than 4 miles from your house? You're going to go on demand and then, pay another $25? Just something to think about. I'm not saying I have the answer. I'm just saying something to think about.
Yeah, and more options are always better. So just to show you where we're at, I had a little side conversation with Julie here in the room. Our average premium on demand trip mileage is 5 to 6 miles, and then the $25 subsidy gets you between 8 and 10 miles in our metro. So a little less expensive to drive in Minnesota than New York City, the Twin Cities, but I'm sure we all just assumed that. We are at 2:30. Does anybody have one last burning question that they want to ask? I got a lot of good information out of this. No? Okay, cool, because I have a couple announcements I want to make. Thank you very much, Judy and Alex, for coming.
Thank you. If anyone has any questions after, please feel free to reach out.
I'm happy to connect y'all. So two quick updates. Actually, I'll go to the public first. Is there anybody from the public who would like to make a comment? No, fantastic. I'm going to make 2 announcements and then do member comment. So we have a Metro Mobility Community Conversation coming up, an online one on May 11th, and that is in the evening, Monday, May 11th from 6 to 7:30 p.m. We can email this to all of you as well. The in-person one is a week later, Monday, May 18th, from 10:30 to noon, so that would be in the morning. And that is at the Richfield Community Center, which at the address there is 7000 Nicollet Avenue. Another update too, a couple months ago, we had a Franklin Station redesign presentation. We were also offered to take a field trip there and talk about that station. We do have options to do that now. I will put this out just for you all to have in the back of your head, but I will also email you as well. So we have options, 2 different days that we can do it if you want. I will try my best to be there. But if there is interest, please let me know. You can just call out something right now too, just so I know that there is interest, but I do remember that people were interested in checking out that station.
What are the possible dates?
The dates are April 6th and April 9th. So April 6th in the late afternoon, so 3 to 4 p.m. on April 6th, which is, 4 days away, 5 days away? And what's that?
Monday.
It's Monday. Okay, so Monday from 3 to 4, and then April 9th from 9 to 10 or 10 to 11 in the morning. Those are our options to visit Franklin Station renovation. So take note of that. I'll send out an email as well. I'll also, I'll attend either one, whichever one we can get to do, but I'll make sure that Metro Transit knows when we're available and that we do want to go. All right, are there any member comments before we end 5 minutes late? That was not me saying don't comment. Go ahead.
David, if I'm not able to attend, is there going to be a virtual option, or can you bring your phone with you?
Okay, I'm happy to just call you on my phone and video it in if you want. I don't know if I'll be able to do that for everybody. Yeah, we'll talk offline.
Okay, thank you.
Oh yeah. Any member comments? Sweet. Thank y'all for joining. See you maybe next week. If not, see you next month.